Welcome to Tone Talks. Welcome to Tone Talks.
This is a pop-up show, so we'll see who we get in here. I know it's a holiday, court holiday, so I'm happy Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day. I have a brother that's in the armed services in the Navy. He's in Japan right now, so shout out to him. Let's get into this discussion. It's my birthday yesterday. Thank you so much to all those who had well wishes under Yvette's tweet. Shout out to Yvette Carnell. We are about to have a discussion about race. Y'all got Earn Your Leisure. Y'all got Boyce Watkins. I don't think none of them know much. So before I start talking about this wealth and how America is carved up around whiteness, different industries, different parts of the country, I think because we use the word white and black, we create a ratio that just does not exist. Wealth in America is white wealth in America. I'll show you in a second. And part of what's happening, I think, is for you guys to have drawers for different kinds of content. You call me data, or you say I'm just presenting life. You know how like street signs have names on them, and they tell you what road to go down. You know how your blood has vessels. What I'm presenting to you is that. It's not data, it is life. You can't contrast what I'm presenting with fantastical representations. You can't contrast what I'm presenting, what Yvette's presenting with blackness as a concept. I'm going to get into it later. You had Earn Your Leisure guy, one of the hosts. He comes on, talks about how the Jewish dollar circulates. They said we need to do it on our own, meaning he's talking about black folk. Okay, so the Jewish people are talking about ethnicity, but he talking about blackness because he don't know about ADOS. Y'all following somebody who don't understand numbers, the overall realities of wealth, and somebody who doesn't understand ethnicity. How you gonna do that? Got boomer hook. So we gonna have this discussion today, and we're gonna get into the framing of wealth in America and how white people carve it up. I picked a couple industries so you can see it. Because a lot of you guys say stuff like, I'm gonna start a grocery store, or we just need to start our own bank, or we just need to. And what I want to get into is what is, not what we just need to. We had this come out on MSNBC. When 26 billionaires have as much wealth as half of humanity, that's a crisis. It's time, and it's up to organized labor to lead that movement. UAW Sean Fain. Through Car Edge, the website, and a number of other news sites, I've been following this labor movement. While this is accurate, it is half the story, and possibly even much less than half the story. I put a tweet up about 2 days ago this week, and what I framed is the real story. The real story is not 26 people. It is a nation of white folks who have taken all of the wealth and then given you black celebrity that makes you believe that you included too. While your boomer parents, as long as they had a retirement, they really are putting you out to pasture, and you don't even know. I've had the shows about it. You can deal with it how you wish. It's coming for you. You have no wealth, no retirement, no life insurance, and you out here playing. But that's okay. We're going to talk about a different subject today, and we're going to frame white American wealth. We're going to frame, I said, white American wealth. Hold on. No, we're going to frame American wealth. So you're going to understand American wealth, and as a result, you're going to understand white American wealth. And then you're going to understand how you're wasting money on these classes that Boyce and Earn Your Leisure people are telling you about that'll make you a millionaire because they don't know what the they talking about. So let's get right into the discussion today. And please support the channel. Call in 310. This is only half the story. So what am I saying this? I'm talking about this right here. There's 26 billionaires have as much wealth as half of humanity. The reason I know it's half the story is because I did that work. I contacted the governors of the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve keeps data and nobody talks about it, but Matt Brunig, I've seen him talk about it. I've talked about it. I don't really see other people talking about it. They talk about it tangentially at best, the economists, but it's the whole story. It tells you, and we know because I've been showing you guys, because Yvette's been showing you guys the Federal Reserve charts. It comes out quarterly. It tells you the roadways of your life, but it don't tell you the roadways if you live in Lord of the Rings Black version. They named their show Earn Your Leisure. You don't earn your leisure, you inherit it. How about it? We just need to cycle the black dollar. And I learned from a Jewish man, wait, he's cycling by ethnicity. He ain't cycling the white dollar. God, you guys are listening to a fool. Thank you so much for the support. So when they say this 26 billionaires control as much wealth as half of humanity, they're leaving out people. So there's 83 million white homes, and a chunk have millions of dollars managing the wealth of the billionaires. This is only half the story. White America has carved up America, creating a massive secondary wealth class that manages the wealth and power of these billionaires, as well as their own massive wealth holdings. So we're going to get to this later, but we've seen this chart before that shows how white America had 2 trillion, and now in 1980 they had 24, and 89 now they got 130. But while that happens, Boyce gonna make you a millionaire in 5 minutes. So what do you say? How to become a millionaire within 5 minutes a month and earn your leisure? They got $1,000 a year class, and these dudes are gonna teach you about wealth. I wanted to show you a chart. This is a map of America by race. I haven't pulled it up in some time, and I'm pulling it up in a different context now because I want to show you how America is carved up. This is almost a visual of wealth, except we're much tinier in terms of wealth, meaning black folk. So blacks are the green dots. We're pretty much all through the South, and then we're in the Midwest, and that's it. White America is in large sections of this country all by themselves, and they dominate industries. So while you guys are dealing with people like rappers and talking about starting a bank, they are the bank. See, whiteness is more than just a color. It is a positioning amongst law, amongst policy that allows them to keep other people out. I don't have to guess. I ain't missing the day. Happy birthday to me because I'm about to smash on people. I need you to understand how ignorant it is for you to pay these people for these classes that don't know nothing. But I also want you to understand you can't come to me and talk about I'm with data. This is not data. This is just life. I mean, I guess everything is data. I mean, your rent is data. But the road signs are the road signs, and your arteries are your arteries. And the fact that this white man got all the wealth is just the truth. And without policy, that will not change. Let me say it again. So again, I did this back in 2017, and it gives you a framework, and the numbers are worse now, probably. White America has carved up America, creating a massive secondary wealth class that manage the wealth and power of these billionaires, these 26 people. Middle managers, their lawyers, their dentists, their accountants, their real estate agent, as well as their own massive wealth holdings. The 99th percentile black family. So there's 83 million white homes and there's 20 million black, roughly 1-to-4 ratio. But the 1% black family is only worth $1.5 million. I will tell you that in California, $1.5 million in net worth is basically right above like middle class, slightly above middle class. You'll go to their houses and they got old cars. You'll talk to them, they're scared about retirement. But only 1% of black families out of 20 million, not 2 million, 200,000 families break 1.5 million, while the 99th percentile white family is over $12 million of net worth and up. But they got 83 million families. This means over 870,000 white families have a net worth over $12 million. While out of the 20 million black American families in America, fewer than 380,000 are even worth $1 million. Okay, let's go back. But Boyce said he is going to teach you how to be a millionaire with 5 minutes a month, and you just got to enroll in his course. How to be a millionaire within 5 minutes. All right. We're going to talk today about the truth of wealth in America. We're going to talk today about the truth of blackness in America, quote unquote, and how people that don't understand wealth nor ADOSness and the importance of either are trying to sell you classes. This means over 870,000 white families have a net worth above $12 million, while out of 20 million black families in America, fewer than 380,000 are even worth $1 million. By comparison, over 13 million of the total 85 million white families are single millionaires or better. So we have 20 million families and only 380,000 are even worth $1 million. And they have 13 million families by themselves that are worth $1 million or more. And we up here talking about race as if they don't have all the wealth and letting them pitch stories around 26 billionaires as if that whole group isn't built on fossil fuels, on hoarding policy, on redlining, on contract leasing, on predatory loans, on all kinds of advantages and disadvantages given to Adolph's folk. It's so bad that I would say half the black people that are successful got a white mama or daddy. What? Jordan Peele, Nicole Hannah-Jones, Barack Obama. Because then that tie you right back to the white wealth. But then you get to talking, you leave that out. The inheritance and how you came up and the gifts and the privileges that made you damn near white in your life. We know Obama inherited $500,000 from his white grandmama, but they writing about that's okay. That's who we got in the room. But I'm not here to talk about guessing, and I'm not here to frame this as data. This is life. You got everybody telling you about business, but we know about business because we're not in business, but they telling us that they can teach us how to run a business. Boyce Watkins, Earn Your Leisure, and so many others on this internet. And the reason we know is we have the 2022 Q3 Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances. There's levels to this. There isn't like some kind of equivalence between me and a lot of the people you listening to. This is just basics. Like if you ain't starting here and you starting somewhere else where you gonna talk about a Jewish man that told you about circulating the black dollar, you ain't even in the realm of my level. We not talking the same way. Yeah, it sounds good because you can sell a class on bull. But I'm talking about the truth of what it is in America. And then Yvette's talking about the policy of how you break that up. And you don't know nothing about it because you lost and boomer hooked. Earn Your Leisure, man. So when we look at wealth, and we went through this chart, so I'm not going to go in detail, but this is the Federal Reserve Survey of Consumer Finances for Q3, and it shows the breakdown of this white 130 trillion around. Again, I covered it up on accident, but consumer durables, they have 6 trillion, just about 6 trillion in that category. That's pretty much as much as blacks have in all the categories. Black wealth is pretty much a mix of pensions, which means it's all in boomers' pensions and their retirement as we watch them retired and we drive Uber. And then it's housing, and I would bet half of that housing, if not more, is black boomers as well. Whereas white wealth is dispersed throughout many categories. When you look at business, private business, black Americans black folks, and I'm going to say black folks, the 48 million black folks do not exist in business really. These numbers are infinitesimal. When you $360 billion in business, that's 0.36, and they're counting in trillions, whereas white people have almost 15 trillion just in private businesses. They have 28.1 trillion in stocks. We have 360 billion. So when you look at it, we're pretty much a pension property group, and that's pretty much all older black boomers. Working age black people really are largely wealthless, and that's why they're doing these classes. And part of it is they don't understand that they don't have wealth because they went out and got all the accoutrements. They got the family, they got the wife, they got the husband. They have all the accoutrements, but they don't know that they don't have any wealth to provide anybody to actually support those accoutrements. Opinion, but we got here based on this new black middle class. So the new black middle class was going to be our doorway into wealth, but that's because back then they only had 24 trillion white America. So and in 1980 they only had 2. So maybe we're talking about 87. They were at like 20 trillion. So it looked like we could close the gap. Well, everything fucked up because of policy. Following the stuff that Earn Your Leisure, the Nixonian stuff, Boyce Watkins pushes, what it led to is we went from them having 24 trillion or less to having 130, and us having next to nothing, and the little bit we have is all pension. But as long as you buy this class, you all right. Normally $4,000, now only $1,000. $99 to enroll in the class. We're doing this for context, and we've already talked about it. LA Sentinel, I wrote a piece some years ago off the Color of Wealth report. Black family in LA is worth $200 liquid. Miami Color of Wealth on your web shows staggering gap in liquid wealth. Native blacks worth $11 liquid. Caribbeans worth $2,000. And those are primarily probably Haitians because it's Florida. And they're worth $2,000 coming from Haiti. I believe that's the poorest country in the hemisphere. To give context for your $11 while you're in America. The median net worth of a black Bostonian is $8 liquid. Can we get into the discussion? Because people don't want to hear the truth. I don't need Earn Your Leisure interviewing Kennedy candidate for me. I don't need Diddy talking about COVID for me. I don't need no black celebrity. I don't need nobody who is bringing on people selling classes, doing nothing for me. You're going to have to make that choice for yourself as you dip in and out of different boxes because you don't like the way these numbers lay out and you call this data because then it can be put in a category where it's like over there. No, this is your life. This ain't data. White people got all the money, all the wealth. And then you let people who have a white parent speak for you. I'm not saying nothing wrong with having a white parent. I'm saying that in essence, we need people with ADOS parents that are locked out of wealth speaking for us. I don't want to hear from Jordan Peele. He didn't even know his daddy. He knew the mama. I don't want to hear from Nicole Hannah-Jones. I want to talk today about, don't tell me about Barack Obama because he already Kenyan and white, grew up whole white. I want to hear about this white wealth, but I can't hear about it because they covering it up. The new black middle class, who's in it and who's out? Who's in and who's not? The price and the perks of success. Again, that's 87. I showed you on the chart, white folks probably had about $20 trillion, and that's a lot of money, but like it looked like we could catch up. Well, every bit of policy done since then has led to them just carving up America. Black Americans really don't grasp the legal craze that constructs the pillars of white wealth, the poles that hold it up. Example, Nick Saban's car dealership group moved into Florida, and the state allows crazy high dealer fees that are blocked in a state like California. So Florida is a little industry for certain white people that's different than California, and they do different business like Silicon Valley here, but we not in none of it, and we don't even know what's going on. Hold on. I want to talk today. So I want to cut in a clip to give you context of what I'm saying, because maybe you need to hear it. This is Car Edge, and they're breaking it down.
And I highlighted one paragraph out of it, and it was about Nick Saban's group buying some dealerships in Florida. And the headline, the headline is that they spent $700 million to buy a couple of Mercedes-Benz stores in Florida. But the paragraph that got my attention, Florida has these great franchise laws. In other words, folks, you're getting screwed every time you buy a car in Florida, that allows dealers to generate high profits, and that shows up in high goodwill values. Okay, so the perfect example of that was the $559.95 electronic filing fee and the $999 in doc fee. So that's what, $1,559, and then a $500 tag fee. I don't think tags are $500 in Florida. So it's like Florida's idea of consumer protection is, hey, whatever the dealer wants to do to you, we're okay with it. Okay? It's just that simple. And you see it reflected in the values of dealerships, because that was probably $1,600 of pure profit on top of the selling price.
So What I'm telling you today goes a little further. I'm telling you that whiteness is wealth. They carved up America geographically and also by industry, and then they keep other people out. And that is the construct of wealth in America. So there's no class around blackness that's going to get you wealth, because people don't understand race nor wealth. They don't understand the girth of it. They don't understand the policy around it. I'm just telling you about certain industries what's going on. So when you look at this thing, because we need to get into industries. Nick Saban, the guy who's made his fame off of black bodies colliding into each other on football, he making his money somewhere else. The money you see from football ain't the real money he making. Nick Saban's car dealership group moves into Florida for $700 million. Dream Motor Group, which Saban co-owns, has bought 2 Mercedes-Benz dealerships in South Florida for approximately $700 million. Saban's group now owns 9 dealerships across the South. So those NIL deals and little players get, oh, they're going to turn it right over to him in the car dealerships. But you don't just make money on selling the cars. You make money regionally based on the structure that has been created to calcify and to codify the power of white wealth. So what do I mean? Let me explain to you. So there's the car, let's say the Mercedes, let's say the $150,000 Mercedes, let's say the $100,000 Mercedes. But then there's these other fees, markups and everything. But there's one fee in particular that gives us the framework of how policy allows white people to make whiteness into wealth. So in California, the dock fee, and I'll explain what a dock fee is $85. That's how much I pay with my car. The cap on it is $85. For the exact same service in Florida, the same place Nick Saban just bought a dealership, the dock fee is $950 with no cap. They can charge $1,500, $1,800. They can charge all kinds of fees. And I think we've seen some of those during COVID. There's no protections against gouging. So when you get into this business, you're not just in the car business, you're in the administrative advantages of being in Florida business and being white. Average dealer documentation fees by state for 2023. California, $85. Florida, $950. What is a dock fee? Maybe it's something that really takes all that. Well, then why is it $85 in California and $950 in Florida? Auto dock fees at purchase for exact same service. Dealer documentation fees cover a dealer's administrative costs related to title, registration, and other paperwork. So $950 in Florida, $85 in California. This man buys the dealerships in Florida, and we don't think he in the dock fee business. I need you guys to see that America is, the wealth of America is whiteness. It is wound up in whiteness and the policy that codifies and calcifies the advantages that come out of their whiteness. Thanks so much for the support, JT. Please, 310-388-3499. And this might be a show where you just listening, but if you want to call in, let me know. Love to hear from you. But it's not just cars. We're going to do about 2 or 3 different industries, but it's every industry, from peanuts and avocados to and oranges and the Cargill family with the eggs, and they got the contract with McDonald's to provide them all the eggs. And y'all telling me that you going to start something with Claude's fish business that went out of business. Y'all telling me that you understand wealth without understanding race. And you tell me you don't understand race because you're talking about the cycling of a black dollar when we have black immigrants inside of blackness that send money out of the country. God damn it. We gonna talk about it. How the government helped white Americans steal black farmland. So it's farming, it's cars. So I want everybody to see that one of the names is Dark Hamilton. I did a report with Dark Hamilton some years ago, what we get wrong about closing the racial wealth gap. There's just levels to this discussion, and I have no idea where Boyce Watkins or Earn Your Leisure or so many others that talk about wealth in this random, fantastical, Lord of the Rings kind of way even fit. We gonna start a black bank, and we gonna start with one fish at a time. I don't have no idea what most of these people are even talking about. And I don't think they do either, because they don't know America. They don't know the numbers. And I'm not talking about data right now, the data and all that. I'm talking about just the basics of the 1 + 1, 1 + 1. They don't have that part of the discussion. The Office of Civil Rights at the Agricultural Department is located on the 3rd floor of a building named after a white supremacist. The Jamie Whitten Building, named in 1994, honors a member of Congress who started his career by eliminating a federal agency because his studies encouraged racial intermingling. But in the end, it is by referring to Mike Epstein, a black member of Congress and future Secretary of Agriculture, as a boy. Whitten's prejudices were reflected in the policies he supported: floods of cash for white wealthy farmers and next to nothing for black farmers. This is the nexus in many ways. Slavery is the nexus. What you see is that this country is, when we say white and black, because of black celebrity in the decade of value, you guys really don't understand what white and black means. So I think it's as bad as not understanding you were ADOS. And I really don't think you understand what these families cost. I would think American family costs, like, you need to have $200,000-$300,000 in net worth on the floor, on the low end. You out here with these 2 kids and shit. And like, you guys are out here Ubering and acting like you just stable, and then looking at other people that don't have kids and saying, well, I got to have kids. You got to pay for them. We don't live separate from white people. Somebody came in the chat once and said, why do we talk about white people? Because white people buy the same bread, the same house, the same car, they send them to the same schools. So yeah, you got to talk about the reality of wealth. I'm sorry that you want to live in Rosewood. It's 2023. The representative from Mississippi never worked for USDA, but as a chair of the House Appropriation Subcommittee on Agriculture for over 4 decades, he exercised so much control over the department's budget that he became known as the Permanent Secretary of Agriculture. Again, this article is how the government helped white Americans steal black farmland. So we started off with cars, and we showed through the doc fee how, and this is just one part of it, the whole industry is built around these car dealerships. Like, you have let me give you an example before I get into the farmland. How many people in the chat have heard of Southeast Toyota, the division down there? That there's certain parts of this country. So Toyota, to break into the American market, I'm telling you how it went. They had to do a deal with white folk to distribute their cars. So part of the reason there's a shortage of Toyotas is that those white folks set up a beneficial system where they can make money both on the selling of the cars by adding add-ons at the dock. And Toyota has to sell to them in certain regions. It's contractually set up. And then in addition, they can sell you extended warranties and all kind of stuff. So Toyota is only making 3% in America. So they send the cars to other parts of the world where they can make 10 and 12%. That kind of setup is the entirety of American wealth and the entirety of whiteness all throughout this country. So while they tell us about hard work, their wealth is built on a codification of their race. And also then a whole locking out of you. While you talk about black business, but don't know about nobody doing no real business. You look at this thing. Why is the dock fee $85 in California and $950 in Florida for the same service? Because white folks chose to make it that way. And that is how they make wealth. How the government helped white Americans steal black farmland. So we talked about autos. Now we move into farmland. In a typical year in the 1960s, writes historian James Cobb, the most southern place on earth, Whitten secured $23.5 million for wealthy farmers who made up 0.3% of his district, and just $4 million in food stamps for the 59% of his district that lived below the poverty line. He once explained to Senator George McGovern that if hunger was not a problem, ends wouldn't work, and we know what ends are. While Whitten was less abashed in his racism than most of his fellow lawmakers, they were no less committed to defending rich white farmers. And notice they're not saying rich white male farmers. It's the family unit. Rich white families of farmers. We can't forget they were her property and how white women inherit the land when the husband dies. They love to say, oh, it's the white male farmers. No, it's the white families. I told you earlier, there's 83 million white families and 13 million are worth more than $1 million. The family unit is what matters when you count wealth. So many of you guys, particularly black women, have been like caught up in a gender that doesn't, wealth isn't shared by gender, it's shared by family, and somebody failed you and didn't teach you right. All that intersectionalism, I already showed the show. A lot of it was just poor teaching, and it wasn't anchored in any kind of understanding of wealth either. I need you guys to see it. While Whitten was less abashed in his racism than many of his fellow lawmakers, they were no less committed to defending rich white farmers. From the start of Whitten's political career to the present, lawmakers in both parties have set their differences aside to send the exceeding majority of federal funds to commercial farmers, almost all of them. So Black farmers not only lost out on these massive subsidies, they have been effectively disenfranchised within the modern agricultural system. Under conditions of savage oppression, Black families emerged in the early 1900s with almost 20 million acres of farmland and the largest amount of property they would ever own within the United States. According to the historian Manning Marble, since then, they have lost roughly 90% of the acreage. Look, let me show you something. I just happen to have this. This right here is a deed. It's a deed to property in Mississippi. My grandmother passed. This is a deed. The Amish have bought everything around what my family owned. White Amish families. Y'all don't even know that's going on because you're watching Earn Your Leisure and goddamn Boyce. You have no idea that you live in America. You have no idea what America is. You don't even understand what whiteness is in America because you created Blackness. You created a contrast that isn't really a contrast. It's just a holding cell for the goddamn failure. And then you created power out of it. Almost 20 million acres of farmland and the largest amount of property they would ever own within the United States, according to the historian Manning Marble. Since then, they have lost roughly 90% of the acreage. So we lost 90% of that 20 million acres. We don't even understand, and it's because we don't get no contracts. It's not just Black people selling their land. We don't get no contracts. We don't have any policy. We're sitting up talking about this. Who's in and who's out? The Black middle class. Thank you so much, Ron. Please support the channel. I want to have this discussion. Despite the scale of this deliberate state-sanctioned dispossession, so again, we talked about cars, and now we're talking about land and property, how the government helped white Americans steal Black farmland. This article is basically saying how the government made white people have all of the wealth that's in this chart right here. So there's no class. Hold on. There's no class. There's no $1,000 you're going to give to them when you're only worth like $20 liquid, or no $100 class that'll teach you how to be a millionaire in 5 minutes. But it sounds good while they have all the policy locking us out, and they're going on TV talking about 26 people when we know it's 13 million families, if not more, because that's just the ones worth $1 million or more. What about the ones worth 700,000? So you probably have 30% of their race. 80 million families. Understand, we only have 20 million families. 30% of that 80 million families, come on, 24 to 30 million families hoarding the wealth. And you out here driving Uber with nothing, trying to pretend to be a family and a father figure and all that. And you ain't got nothing for your kids, and you ain't mad because you don't know what shit costs. Despite the scale of this deliberate state-sanctioned dispossession, no one has estimated how much Black families lost. For the first time in forthcoming paper to be published in American Economic Association's Paper and Proceedings Journal, our team conducted a comprehensive analysis of the historical data from 1920 to 1997 and found that the lost wealth and income from the land totals about $326 billion, roughly the size of Hong Kong's annual gross domestic product. See, that's what I mean. Like they, even like when these economists talk about it, against the trillions, no, it's what that land and the policy that could have came from being locked in. This is not the right analysis. You don't take it and contrast it to Hong Kong's annual gross domestic product. You don't really grasp that it was about moments. It was about a moment when you owned the town, and that town then became New York City, Houston. Roughly the size of Hong Kong's annual gross domestic product. This enormous loss not only cost the families who saw their land and dreams taken from them, but destroyed a rural Black middle class that had by sheer will emerged in the aftermath of slavery. Since family wealth is iterative, Growing slowly at first, adding to itself and accumulating spend over time, the blow is to a nascent black middle class has reverberated down the generations. By 1890, about 20% of black farm families owned their land, and by 1910, that figure had reached 25%. Even as white creditors cheated them, white planters worked them ragged. White politicians disenfranchised them, and white mobs targeted them with arson and lynching. Over 425,000 black families were able to save enough to purchase almost 20 million acres in the Jim Crow South. The number of people in these families roughly numbered the total African Americans who migrated north in the first migration. So when we look at America, the blue dots are white folk. White America has carved up America, and he's using mechanisms to make us not understand that wealth is almost all white. I need you to see it. I need you to see it. That's why I'm leaving it on screen. So this whole section is just white people. This whole section just white people. This whole section down there just white people living free as can be. Got donkeys and camel and cows and donkeys and cows and sheep and hold on, let me zoom in because maybe they don't even know no black people. We all concentrated here, living foot to neck, and don't even know it. I did an article some years ago now on inequality.org, and it was called "Who Owns Almost All America's Land?" Because the USDA used to release a report, and then they stopped releasing it. They won't tell us no more. At least I couldn't find it. And in the report, you found some shocking information. A USDA report is exposing a massive disparity between white and black land ownership in the U.S. The 5 largest landowners in America, all white, own more rural land than all of black America combined. This tiny group, a band that would fit comfortably in any mid-sized sedan, owns more than 9 million acres, while all of the African American population combined, over 40 million people, own just 8 million acres. The racial disparity in rural land ownership has deep historical roots. We just went through those. In many cases, the land African Americans lost over the 20th century was expropriated in one form or another and not sold freely. In the 2007 documentary Vanished, filmmaker Marco Williams describes numerous examples of white mobs forcing out African American farmers and taking their land. So white wealth has basically created a failure group, and that failure group reframed itself in contrast of white, and it was called black. And then now we've reformed this as a 1-to-1 ratio. And because of the optics of black celebrity and the silence of black boomers, we have created a world where we're like circling down a drain and don't even know what circling means. Because we buying classes. Come on. I got people all up in the chat. Thank you so much for the support, Stephen. I'm trying to do this show. Somebody sarcastically said it's just a mentality problem. That's what they say. You heard Whoopi Goldberg. These blacks are sitting at home during the day watching The View. The View is trash. I think Whoopi is a high school dropout. Excuse me if I'm wrong. I believe she's a high school dropout. I want to hear from her. She said that basically the millennials only want to work 4 hours a week. That's why they can't buy housing. It's just stupidity. It's blanket stupidity by a stupid person. And so it's not that. It's basically what has happened is policy has allowed for white old people to take very small amounts of black people, black old boomers. So there'll be a policy like property tax policy. And black boomers don't have a lot of the property, but whites do. And because they come in the room with the whites, it looked like the policy good for us. But it's really just a way to calcify those white property owners and their whiteness. And you should be against that, and you should pay your goddamn property tax. Well, they only on fixed income. Well, we got student loans. Well, your student loans is because you made a choice. Well, you made a choice to buy a goddamn house. Y'all going up in these rooms with these white people playing diversity. So then it ain't clear that they got everything. The most recent report released by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, again, this is back in 2016, Who Owns the Land, offers these statistics and more. It exposes America's massive disparity in land ownership. African Americans, despite making up 30% of the population, own less than 1% of rural land in the country. and the combined value is $14 billion. White Americans, by comparison, own more than 98% of U.S. land, amounted to 856 million acres, with a total worth of over $1 trillion. So they're making all the food. They got all the places to live, and we see it right here. These are all cities, basically, and I'm not saying it's not some rural living, but it's you see it. It's not just those people. It's not just these people. These are expression. These billionaires are an expression of white wealth. Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, far from genius to me. You can have your own beliefs. They are an expression of white privilege and white advantage. And some of them, like Elon, come from South Africa. He got to bind into whiteness and become white. He from goddamn South Africa. But you look at this, you see, it's not just those small number of people. It's a lot of white people. These are all dots. White people with farms, 30 acres, 100 acres, and they just living out there. I want to talk today. But it's not just farms and it's not just cars. It's also podcasts. But it's all the industries. Every industry is the same way. These are just three that I picked out randomly to give you an idea. So we tell ourselves, well, the black athletes should start their own league and they should start their own media companies. Well, this is what happens when you start your own just channel. You bleed money. Because they have set it up where you got to scale, and it's not really built for somebody to build one thing. That was back during Rosewood. So they set it up where you can't make it that way. Brandon Marshall says, I Am Athlete put him $12 million in debt. During a recent episode of Cam Newton's Funky Friday podcast, former NFL wide receiver Brandon Marshall expressed his view that the breakup of I Am Athlete show represented a substantial missed opportunity, one that he believed had the potential to impact not only his financial success, but also leave a lasting mark on his legacy. He further added, a lot of people's livelihoods are at stake, and I don't want to talk too much about it. We're not competing against them. I Am Athlete. We're just trying to give the people something to enjoy. So that's all they do is dance around race. Bro, this ain't nothing but the farms and the cars and everything else. Brandon Marshall says, I Am Athlete put him $12 million in debt. I want to talk today. K Boogie, thank you so much for the donation. I'm looking at this discussion and they not struggling. These damn near nobody ass people. To me. You got Dave Ramsey, he be saying stuff that's just outright wrong. He don't know the numbers neither. The young people need to not live with their parents. Well, tell their parents pay their goddamn property tax. How about it? Well, the young people need to, how about we don't understand that we're in a transitionary moment where people are living longer than ever. And so as a result, wealth is not transitioning. We have an old president that's 80 years old that basically represents how codified age is into our policy. You got the Joe Rogan experience. So he lost $12 million and he was an athlete on TV. And these people, you got Joe Rogan experience. He made $30 million a year. Highest earning podcast in the world. You got The Favorite Murder by Karen Kliglerath and Georgia Hodgerock. You got Dave Ramsey's show by Dave Ramsey. He right here. He making $10 million a year. You got Dax Shepard with the Armchair X-Ray. He making $9 million a year. He got the Bill Simmons podcast. And that's because what you guys don't see, and this is a form of a podcast that's on YouTube, is we're taking wealthless people and presenting you with information so you can't donate. Then in addition, because of the dynamics you guys have in your family circles when you talk about it, y'all can't even share the information because the people are like mixed up. So when you go to share them information that actually talks about just being ADOS, they shut down. So you can't share information and then you don't have no wealth to even like contribute. And then, yeah, you ain't gonna have no goddamn media. So they got the podcast, they got the main media, they got the farming, they got the cars, they got the peanuts, they got the eggs, they got the oranges, but Earn Your Leisure gonna teach you how to control everything. Data confirms that podcasting in the U.S. is a white male thing. All right. But I want to show you something to give you a context of why I have this on screen. Can I show y'all something else? Let me show it to you.
I was just outside the hotel today, and this guy ran up on me. He's like, "Yo, I love y'all." He started talking to the. He's like, "Yo," he's like, "I was talking to this Jewish guy one time, and he told me, you see this dollar?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "You'll never have this dollar." And he was like, he thought it was a racial thing, but then he broke it down to him. He said, "Look, when I spend this dollar, I'm spending it at a Jewish restaurant, and they're gonna go to a Jewish dry clean. They're gonna put it in a Jewish bank." He was like, "You're never gonna see this dollar because it's never gonna leave our community."
That's a fact.
And they say the black dollar leaves the community, I think, within
Black
6
dollar.
minutes or something like that. Some crazy like stat.
Wait. The Jewish man wasn't talking about whiteness and the white dollar circulating. This guy, who I don't think is that sharp, that's just my view, he switches from ethnicity to talking about the black dollar. That guy was talking about ethnicity. He wasn't talking about white race. God damn, how do you guys listen to these people? But hold on. I need you to see this as well. Nigerians can only send money home in US dollars. Why do you think that is? Because the money is coming from here. So when you patronize under the auspices of blackness and you give money to a Caribbean business or a African business, and that's your right, it's not going to circulate. It's going to get sent to another country possibly because there's a hole in the pocket, because blackness is not how you're going to circulate. It's based on ethnicity, which is ADOSness. But you guys didn't even have ADOS before me and Yvette. So it's just now permeating, and everybody wants to call that xenophobic. Cynthia said Jewish folks are overwhelmingly white. I don't understand. I guess because when you become a lawyer, you have to do inference. I don't understand why that matters. It wouldn't matter if they're overwhelmingly white. They're not circulating the money based on whiteness. The way we see race and ethnicity and never had ADOS, it's a failure that will affect your kids probably, hopefully not for over a generation, if not generations. The reality is that you can't circulate money based on race if you don't have a population that is almost all ADOS like it was in the 60s, because the money will go out of your group, even though you're giving it inside of this supposed group. That's why the white man said Jewish. He didn't say white. God damn. I'm not going to say it twice. I'm just going to read the article. Nigerians can only send money home in US dollars. You do the math on why it's only US dollars. A recent policy by the Nigerian government has sought to leverage remittances to increase the country's foreign capital. But as Femi Baralaji writes, because the policy puts barriers in the way of money transfer, it might have the reverse effect. In November 2020, the Nigerian government made a radical change to money transfers into Nigeria. The new policy mandated that all foreign money transfers must be paid in US dollars, either as cash or credited in a US dollar denominated account. Before the regulations, remittances were paid in Naira through a wide variety of channels, including mobile money. Nigeria's policy was a response to a 27.7% fall in remittance flows through the COVID crisis. They fell from 23.8 billion in 2019, when Nigeria was the sixth largest remittance receiving country among low and middle income countries, to $17.2 billion a year later. But you don't have to take my word for it. You can look at the numbers. I want you guys to understand, white wealth is the wealth in America, and black wealth is the holding cell. But then even blackness is this category where people jump in and play on your low understanding of self. I mean, you call yourself African and you're not from Africa's a continent, and then you're gonna patronize the black dollar, but you don't ask the question, are you gonna look here? I'm gonna pay you this. I don't really want to buy your stuff because I want to support you, but are you gonna use this money in this country? Because I have to ask you, because black don't allow me to automatically presume that, because I'm stupid enough to use black and talk about circulating the black dollar. But you can look right here. You don't have to guess with me. Top remittance receiving countries and territories in Africa, inflow by sending region in 2021 in millions of dollars. So you look at Nigeria, It was $19 billion overall, 19.4. But 6.2 billion of it came from North America. You think it came from Mexico? Could a little bit of it come from Canada? Possibly. I wouldn't doubt that 4 or 5 billion of that is straight from America, from the very black dollar circulation that you guys are talking about selling. Let me play it again, how stupid this sounds after you know that.
Outside the hotel today, and this guy ran up on me. He's like, yo, I love y'all. He started talking. He's like, yo, I was talking to this Jewish guy one time, and he told me, you see this dollar? He's like, yeah. He's like, you'll never have this dollar. And he was like, he thought it was a racial thing, but then he broke it down to him. He said, look, when I spend this dollar, I'm spending it at a Jewish restaurant,
ethnicity,
and they're gonna go to a Jewish dry clean. They're gonna put it in a Jewish bank. He was like, you're never gonna see this dollar because it's never gonna leave our community.
That's a fact.
And they say the black dollar leaves the community, I think, within 6 minutes or something like some crazy like stat.
So we switched from ethnicity to race, back to ethnicity, and we don't even know. We don't understand that the papers you hold are a small little piece of the realities of the way that wealth is broken up along not racial lines, but white lines. How we are here pretty much as a consumption group. We don't own any of the means of production. And that is something that was done a long time ago. That is not fixed with a small bank or no class or no discussion around circling a dollar in a blackness that isn't just ADOS people no more. So you're not really even understanding remittances. If y'all don't understand policy, you don't own nothing. You don't understand nothing. I'm just here to have this discussion today because I've seen a lot of things and I've seen this class and it's $1,000 a month. I mean, I'm sorry, $1,000 a year, but the normal price, they love to put why not just it was $4,000 and $300 a month. Come on. And then you got Boyce, and he said he can teach you how to be a millionaire in 5 minutes a month. Dr. Boyce Watkins breaks the myths of investing that keeps our families poor. The Black Business School. So it's all choice. And again, we did the report, what we get wrong about closing the racial wealth gap. And one of the myths was this stupidity, black defectiveness. It's not a defectiveness in choice. This is policy that allows Nick Saban to have a dealership that charges $950 a damn documentation fees. Bet you this guy don't even know that shit going on. And you dealing with people that don't know the basics. They don't even know that they're charging fees for their classes that takes black families and destroys them economically. So if you have families in LA, so we're gonna do a map. Let's go back to the map. Because I want you guys to understand this chart a little. So we're going to go from down here in Florida to LA to Boston. So basically everything else is somewhere in between these numbers. I want you guys to understand that. Maybe you don't. So in LA, the middle black family has $200 liquid. In Miami, they have $11 liquid. The middle ADOS family. The middle black family in Boston has $8 liquid. Hold on. But they're going to charge you $100 for a class or $997, $1,000 a year. And we're not going to frame this as the destruction of black familial ability to survive, not wealth, just survive. This is your grocery money, basically. We saw that with Jay Morrison, with the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. People needed that money, and I told y'all, keep your money and buy your goddamn groceries. We have so many parts of this. We have so many realities around black wealth and the lack of understanding of race and the lack of understanding of how much wealth white folks have. We like to create little nicks and crannies where we create alternative universes where this is not just the truth of where we live. We live in a society where white Americans have taken all of the wealth. We cannot allow white people to recreate it as if it's 26 people. Not when we know that's probably 30% of their race. 30 million families. There's only 20 million ADOS families. Almost 85% of them are abject poor. we can go down to 60, 65 to say abject poor, but like below working class, 85%. Working age, probably 85% overall. I appreciate y'all tuning in today. This is a little bit of a pop-up show. But I just wanted to come to you and tell you that white America and white wealth, they carved up America a long time ago. And ain't no class, ain't no earn your leisure, ain't no Boyce Watkins, ain't no fantastical talk gonna get you out of this. Join the ADOS Foundation, support Yvette Carnell, support that board and everybody that's doing that great work. We need to get out here and do some policies because all I know is y'all playing around. Thank you.